So with the year approaching its end, the holidays are right around the corner. You want to get into 3D printing or get a 3D printer for somebody you know. Whatever excuse you want to use to dive into the hobby, fine by me, but there's so many options to choose from. In this video, I want to talk about some of my favorite 3D printers that I've used in 2022 to hopefully get you started in the hobby. Let's take a look. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. I'm Frank, and today I want to help you guys pick your first or 15th 3D printer. Now, the market is currently flooded with different companies making so many different 3D printers, and it can be absolutely overwhelming. So I want to talk about some of the best 3D printers I've used in the past 3 or 4 years and some of my top picks for 2022. And hopefully by the end of the video, I'll have helped you narrow down some of those picks to get into the holiday season so you know what to look for. Now, 2 things before we start. Every printer I'm going to talk about will be linked down below, and I'm either going to link it on the manufacturer's website or maybe another website like Matter Hackers or Amazon, somewhere where it's cheaper. Second, with the holidays approaching, I'm going to also link my own personal free Discord down below. Every Prime Day, every Black Friday sale, every holiday season, we always have a special thread in the Discord where people will share and post sales and discounts and Prime Day deals and Black Friday deals in the thread. So definitely keep an eye out on that if you guys want to try to snag a good deal after Thanksgiving or approaching the holidays. Now, let's talk about 3D printers. First off, this is all my personal opinion and preference. There are way too many 3D printers for me to go and test all of them. But having my own YouTube channel and even a second review channel, I'm fortunate enough to test a multitude of 3D printers, so I have some pretty good insight on what's available in the market. Before we get into the specific printers, things you're going to want to keep an eye out for is auto leveling or self leveling. That's going to incorporate a special type of BL touch system or a pressure sensitive system that helps you keep the bed level and square or trammed to the printer. Most printers come with that now. It's beyond the days of having to use a piece of paper and level the printer. So definitely keep an eye out on that. Pretty much all printers nowadays come with upgraded beds, either nice flexible metal beds or these really nice textured glass beds. I don't know if there's any printers still in the market that are sending out plain stock smooth glass. The beds that are coming on printers now are much better. And pretty much every printer now in the market is silent. It isn't really much to boast that the printers have silent boards or quiet fans in operation. Pretty much every printer now has that. I'm not going to get into the differences between direct drive and Bowden tube extrusion. They're pretty much the same thing. And if you know the difference between them, you already know how to look for them. So I wouldn't get too hung up on worrying about direct drive versus Bowden. If you're getting into the hobby initially, really they're both going to perform pretty much the same. All in all, new printers are fairly easy to use. The user interfaces on them are very easy to understand, and some of them even come with cool touchscreens. Now let's start talking about the different price points in printers. You're going to want to establish a budget. We're going to talk about some printers that are below $200, some in the $300 to $400 range, bumping up to $500, and probably finishing off around the $700 range. We're not going to be talking about any printers that are over $1,000 because I personally don't think you need to spend that type of money on printers nowadays to start making cool, fun stuff. First up, in the sub $200 range is the TronXY. I'm going to say TronXY, fight me. This is the TronXY Crux 1. Look at the size of this printer. It's tiny, it has a very small footprint. This is an amazing starter printer. Typically in the past, I would actually be recommending the Creality Ender-3, but this thing is starting to fall behind drastically. Though you can still find these for under $200, this is just a much better build quality, though it is a lot smaller. If you're looking for something that doesn't take up a lot of space, is very easy to assemble, way easier than the Ender, and actually puts out really nice quality prints. Everything you see here was printed off of this while I was testing it. This is a really awesome printer. The build volume is roughly 7 inches by 7 inches by 7 inches, and it doesn't print that tall, but if you're just looking for some fun little projects or starting to learn, it's not a bad printer at all. And look at that, you can just kind of pick it up, grab and go. This printer sits at about $170, $160. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing any type of special or deal around the holiday, but again, it'll be linked down below just so you can take a look at it. I think this printer would be great for like an older kid or a teen who, wants to get into 3D printing but doesn't want something even as big as an Ender-3. I mean, this thing is tiny. Now, real quick, let's talk about the Creality Ender-3. This was my top recommended beginner printer for a long time, and I still do kind of recommend it. However, for about $150, $160, sometimes you can can even get these for as low as $100 at stores like Micro Center if they're doing like a deal. It's a great printer. There is some assembly required. It does require some upgrades. And honestly, I think it's starting to fall behind. Not to mention, there are like 9 or 10 different variations of the Ender-3. I'm not quite sure what Creality's doing. They're literally making models that compete with themselves, and I don't really understand it. Though there are a lot of good Ender-3 models, I think Elegoo might be knocking them off. This is the Elegoo Neptune 3, and I think this has turned into my favorite starter 3D printer. Sitting at about $209 currently, and I'm sure Elegoo is gonna run some type of deal on this thing. This is like the best starter printer I've ever used. Easy leveling, all metal extruder, filament runout sensor, PEI flexible bed, silent, compact touchscreen. This printer is awesome. So if you're looking at something like an Ender-3 Pro or an Ender-3 V2, stop. Go with this thing. This thing blew me away with how easy it was to set up and the quality of the prints I was getting right out of box. It was able to handle flexi pieces perfectly. The factory quality of it was really, really impressive. And again, it was just easy and simple to set up. The build volume's around 9 inches by 9 inches by 11 inches, so you can't quite do like a full helmet on it, but you can do it in pieces and then put it together pretty easily. So if you're trying to stay around that $200 price point, go with this one. You will not be disappointed, I promise. But say you want to spend a little more than $200 and you still don't want to break that $300 price range, let's talk about this oddball. This is the SOVOL SVO1 Pro, and it was kind of out of left field that they did this. Not quite as big as the larger printers like the CR10s and the Ender-3 Maxes, but not quite as small as things like the Ender-3 or Elegoo Neptune 3. It's big enough to do a helmet in one piece. The build volume's about 10 inches by 10 inches by 12 inches, but it's still not that big of a printer. It doesn't really feel much bigger than an Ender-3, but it can do full-size helmets. And just like all the other printers we were talking about before, it has a really good user interface. It has a flexible magnetic bed. It even has a CR Touch, even though it's not a CR Touch, auto leveling system, direct drive, filament runout, dual lead screws, and it's really quiet. This printer actually blew me away. I have a couple SOVOL SVO3s which are much bigger printers than this, and I've had pretty good luck with them, but this is like they just took it and condensed it down, and you know, there's nothing you don't need on it. And that's what some companies get in the habit of doing. They'll start throwing upgrades at printers that no one really asked for. And honestly, SOVOL kind of kept it simple with this. So if you're looking for the mid 200 price range and you want to be able to do large pieces like full-size helmets, this is absolutely a printer you guys should look at. So let's jump up in size a little bit. You're over the $300 price point and you don't quite want to break $400. This might be the best printer that I think Creality has pieced together. This is the Ender-3 Max NEO. No, not the Ender-3 Max, not the Ender-3 S1, the Ender-3 Max NEO. See what I mean about a lot of names? However, I think this might be the best printer Creality has ever pieced together parts and features wise. Just like that SOVOL SVO1 Pro, there's nothing on this that doesn't need to be there. And they also haven't included any new proprietary software or upgrades or weird stuff that they're testing out. It's just all here. Has a really nice user interface, ultra base glass bed, adjustable X and Y, CR Touch, it's silent, metal extruder, filament runout sensor, dual Z lead screws, and a little band to connect them, a Z-Sync belt. Now, if you guys are following my Instagram, you'll know that I was having problems with this printer out of box. I think Creality accidentally sent me a bum mainboard, the motherboard of the printer. Now, I did some research. I seem to be the only one who had that problem after seeing other people's reviews, so hopefully that was just a one-off. They did send me a new board after emailing them. I have it swapped in, and now it's printing beautifully. Like I said, Creality kind of likes working against themselves because they have the Ender-3 Max NEO, but they also have the Ender-3 S1 Plus or Pro, which is the same size, but almost $100 more. If I was given the choice between the two, I would absolutely go with this one. It's a sub $400 printer that is a 12 by 12 by 12 build volume. It can do helmets and things bigger, has good quality, easy to assemble. This is like one of the best printers they've put out. We're going to talk about one of my favorite printers later, the Creality CR10S Pro V2, which is about $500, but this pretty much has all of the same features that printer has, but for $140 less, that's not too bad. Yeah, this is a great printer for sub $400. I love this thing, and I really had high hopes for it. That firmware issue in the main board did set me back a little bit, but like I said, that just seems to be a one-off problem on my part, but I do want to mention it. But as a first printer goes, or a second printer, this thing's great. It's not too big, it's not too small. You can do a lot on it, and it was very easy to set up. Now let's jump up a little bit more in price point. We're about at the $500 range. This is the budget you've established for yourself. And while I would usually recommend this printer right here, the Creality CR10S Pro V2. Again, the naming gets kind of crazy, but make sure it's the Pro V2 because the normal CR10 V2 is drastically different and I don't think quite as good as this thing. And then there's the V3, which is a direct drive, but don't worry about that guy. This has been one of the best long-running and most consistent printers I've ever used. I own 4 of these. I just bought 2 more, and they have been the best out-of-box printers I've ever used. And the setup is among the easiest of the, sub $1,000 printers that I've ran into. You literally unbox it, stand this thing up, 4 bolts go in the bottom, you bolt this thing to the top, and you plug this thing into the side, and you're off to the races. It's a very easy printer to set up. It's larger than something like the Ender-3 Max NEO. It's still about the same build volume, but a lot taller, as you can see here. And I just don't have problems with this printer. All 4 of the ones I've had, they just work out of box. This is my favorite printer and best printer to recommend to people if they're trying to get into the hobby and they just have that budget to put into one good printer, and seldom do they have issues. Obviously, these are mass-produced machines from China and other places around the world. There are gonna be some manufacturer's defects. That's just kind of par for the course, unfortunately. But that's why I typically like to buy printers like this off of Amazon because they have a really good return policy. So if you happen to get a lemon when it comes to that type of stuff, well, just return it, get another one, or maybe look at a different printer. Unfortunately, for the higher price point though of about $500, you actually are losing something that the Ender-3 Max NEO has that the CR10S Pro V2 does not. The Z-Sync belt isn't on there. Though I've really never needed it, it's always been pretty good without it. You are gonna get a couple more metal parts, a little bit of a bigger build volume, a Capricorn Bowden tube, and I just think better consistency out of it. The build volume on the Pro V2 is about 12 inches by 12 inches by like 14 or 15 inches. So again, it's taller than something like the Ender-3 Max. I'm gonna be honest though, I don't really know what to tell you guys when it comes to which printer would I pick over this. You could save a good amount of money with going with the Neo. It is a little bit shorter, but it's the new kid on the block, it's cheaper, and it has most of the same features this one does. So unfortunately, it's gonna be a little bit of a coin toss for me. This printer is really good, but I love this one, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below. Would you, save a little bit of money, lose the height, or would you go with the tried and true printer that I've been using for over 2 years now that's just been consistent? I am going to throw one more wrench into the situation and talk about another $500 printer that has been just as consistent, if not more reliable, than this one. This is the FLSun SuperRacer. This is a Delta style printer. It's not a normal bed slinger. Get it? Bed. See the bed slings back and forth. This is a Delta printer, so the print head moves around. And I have a dedicated review video to this one already. That'll be linked down below. Go watch it. This thing's incredible. Before FLSun had sent me a printer, I had actually never heard of them until they reached out to me. And this was the first printer I had gotten since the Pro V2 that had the same quality, reliability, and ease of setup. And these printers are about the same price, roughly $500, so it's kind of hard to recommend one over the other. You're gonna get a little bit of a bigger build volume on the Pro V2, but the FLSun takes up less space. Yes, it's tall, it looks really tall, but it has a very small footprint. It's just a small triangle. 15 by 15 by 15, that's the size of the triangle and the footprint this thing takes up. It could fit on even a small desk. Though it looks tall, it doesn't print this tall. It only prints half of the height because these cool carbon fiber bars need somewhere to travel, obviously, but it's still a really awesome printer. I've only had to do a leveling sequence on it once. It comes with a little sensor, has an awesome touchscreen, it's quiet, and honestly, it's really entertaining to watch. I think more entertaining than these normal printers if you're into that kind of thing. The one thing the SuperRacer has done better than any single printer I have ever used is its print resume and filament swap feature. If you guys know, on some printers, sometimes when you do a print resume or a pause, the layers can miss and shift just a little bit from being, moved and parked and paused. This thing has never missed a layer. I have used spool after spool, filament changes, pauses, resumes, and it has never messed up on me. Any failures I've had on this printer have 100% been my fault, from improper support placement or, just messing up the print itself. It's great. And what's even better about FLSun is not only do they offer the SuperRacer now, they make a bigger version now. This is the FLSun V400, and it's a lot bigger. They took all the features I loved about the SuperRacer and just made them bigger. This is a full-size helmet sitting on the build plate, and I still have a couple inches to spare. It comes with a magnetic flexible PEI sheet, a direct drive extruder system, some really cool LEDs, and it even comes with an awesome touchscreen system and clipper. And if you don't know what clipper is, that's fine. If you do know, you know why that's pretty cool. The only thing about this printer is it's a little pricey, more expensive than actually any printer I wanted to talk about in this video. It sits at about $850, and as of filming this video right now, they just started sending out the pre-orders for it. So over the next couple days, you may be able to order it, especially closer to the holidays, but this printer has been just as consistent as the SuperRacer. Still a Delta style printer, but it has a much larger footprint and it is a lot taller. As opposed to the 15-inch triangle here, this is about a 19-inch triangle. And the one thing I wish they did, there's no way to mount the screen. Like, I have the touchscreen system here on the SuperRacer. Why couldn't you have just given me a magnet? It has this weird stand, but you know, I mean, first world problems, I guess it could be worse. This isn't a square build plate, so I can't really go by like, you know, 12 inches by 12 inches by whatever. But realistically, it can print at about 17 inches tall, which that's pretty good. And then the build plate itself is 12 inches across. So you have 17 by 12. You can make a cylinder with the volumetric, that's fine. Totally up to you. It can print big. And it's been just as easy to set up as the SuperRacer. It's been reliable, consistent, and the quality on it has been fantastic. Though it would be a little hard to justify the $350 jump for just a bigger build volume, if you are looking for something that can do most helmets in one shot and still pretty large pieces, the SuperRacer isn't bad, but if you want a big, reliable printer, this thing's been incredible. And it has sweet carbon fiber. Why wouldn't you want carbon fiber on your printer? It makes it go faster. You can even put some stickers on it and make it go even faster. It worked on my Honda, it should work on the printer. I'm kidding, I don't drive a Honda, I have taste. And the last two printers I'm gonna talk about are for those of you who want to print big right out of box. Now, I don't own either of these printers, but I've been in this hobby long enough and I have plenty of friends who have used these printers a ton. And if I hadn't done my research on them and talked to them personally, I wouldn't be recommending them. First up, we have the Creality CR6 Max. This is a 400 by 400 by 400 build plate. It's about 15 inches in each direction. That's a pretty big build volume. This guy sits at about $700, but I do need to also talk about its competition, the Anycubic Cobra Max, and this is just over $500. And right now, it's one of the larger FDM format printers on the market between the CR6 Max and the Anycubic Cobra Max. Honestly, I wouldn't even really be looking at the CR6 Max with the Cobra Max available because that price difference, I don't know if that really justifies it. And after seeing so many people have great consistency with the Cobra Max, you might as well just go with that one. The Cobra Max has all of the same features we've been talking about, just bigger. Has assisted leveling, has a really good bed, has dual lead screws. This is a good big printer if you just want to print big. I will say though, don't fall into the trap of just getting the biggest possible printer when you're not going to use that much build volume. The bigger the printer is, the slower it's going to go. It has a lot of bed to move back and forth. So if you do have the $500 price range budget, don't just jump to the Max if you don't think you're ever going to print that big. You still might want to look at something like the Ender-3 Max NEO or the FLSun SuperRacer and maybe save yourself a couple bucks. But as far as the biggest printer on the market though that I would recommend under $1,000, the Cobra Max is going to win. Listen guys, I know there are a lot of options out there and it can absolutely be overwhelming. But nowadays, a lot of the printer companies and brands that are putting out these machines are being held to a higher standard. It's taken a little bit of time and some issues do still slip through the cracks, but you're not gonna be upset or remiss if you get one of these printers, if you get the Max NEO and maybe you should have gotten the smaller one. If the budget fits you and you end up with any of these, you're still gonna be happy, you're still gonna be able to print things, and the 3D printing community is amazing and everybody is always willing to help. So don't think you're just going in this on your own when you have YouTube channels, tutorials, guides, forums, Facebook, Reddit, all of this fun stuff to help you learn and get better at the hobby. Now, there are some printers I didn't talk about, some companies I didn't talk about. Prusa is one of them. When you're looking at best 3D printers, you're gonna see that name pop up a lot. Unfortunately, personally, I think they're still too expensive for what they're offering, for what else you can get for that much money. But that's pretty much going to wrap up everything I wanted to talk about in the video in terms of printers. Again, I know it's overwhelming, but hopefully this video was able to point you in the right direction and help you make up your mind on some of these printers. I have been testing a lot of printers this year, and there are printers that just didn't make the cut, and I just absolutely would not recommend to you guys, and there's a reason you didn't see them. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I will link all of these down below to either Amazon or some good websites and their parent website. But if you want to get good live updates about what's going on for Black Friday, make sure you go check out that Discord and keep an eye out for that notification. Speaking of notifications, did you guys know that I upload a bunch of videos, and you know how you guys can stay up to date with those? By subscribing and ringing that notification bell. It's an absolutely free way for you to help support the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of the content I have coming out. And if you want to keep an eye out on dedicated 3D printer reviews for any of the printers I've talked about, make sure you check out my second channel, Frankly Reviewed. I am going to try to get a review of every single one of the printers I talked about up on that channel before the holidays are over, so hopefully that'll help you guys out. And please drop some comments down below. Let me know some of your experiences with some of these printers, or if this video did help you in deciding what printer to go for. But that's enough of me rambling and talking. Go get yourself a 3D printer, jump into the hobby, have a great holiday. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a good day.